Let me start then with a problem. We have a number of revolts, different countries. So here we have Tunisia, of course Egypt, Bahrain, Syria, Libya, and Yemen, and others. And it's what do they have in common? And in fact, it's less than you might think. These are all different countries. People talk about the Arab Spring, but each country has its unique history, its unique set of issues and the problems. Think about Bahrain, for example. Bahrain really represents something rather unique. It's a difference. The ruling elite is a Sunni family, and about 80% of the population, we're not sure because they don't have official statistics, but probably about 80% are Shia. This need not be a problem in a country, except if you're a Sunni, you get privileges from the state. University position, government employment, subsidies for your business, and so on. And people naturally resent this. There are other features that are unique to Bahrain as well that foreigners might not see, which is the United States has the 5th Fleet based there. And Iran is right across the water. The Iranians would love to get the U.S. 5th Fleet out, and the U.S. government wants to keep their 5th Fleet there for their various foreign policy or imperial reasons. And that's part of what is happening in Bahrain. It's unique to that circumstance. It's a battleground between two great powers, a regional power and an international power that want influence and control. Syria, with its own unique experience of having the Ba'ath Socialist Party there, with its dictatorship, that has become a dynasty, a real monarchy where power was handed from father to son. And people are sick of it there. They're also sick of the Soviet-style economic system, and so on. Libya, again, is sui generis. It's unique in many ways. Libya does not even have a modern state, as we understand the term. Gaddafi destroyed the state in our normal understanding of the term today and created a pre-modern patrimonial state in which the great leader divides up power amongst his sons. Each son, in effect, is given an army. And Saif was given millions of dollars to pay and bribe Westerners, getting his PhD in London, and giving all that money to the London School of Economics, and so on. But that was, in effect, that son's role. The other sons run what are, they call them militias. I think they're just armies personally loyal to the leader, who pays them in cash in his tent. This is not the normal modern state circumstance. And it's not at all like Egypt. It's really quite different from the Egyptian circumstance. Egyptians are much more likely to have a sense of national identity. That's why the army was more popular, because people say, well, my son or my nephew, my cousin is in the army. If your nephew or cousin is in one of Gaddafi's militias, you are a member of his tribe, right? And you're getting money from him. And the vast majority of the population is not. So Libya and Egypt are really very different circumstances. But they do have some things in common. So what I might say is that the material, the kindling, as we say in English, the wood that caught fire in each country is different, but the spark was common and went from one country to the next. A common spark, but in each case the kindling, the material that burst into flame, was different. I want to address one question. Was it despair about rising poverty? This is a very common thing you hear in the media, and I think it's a bit superficial. For instance, the same thing we heard, well, terrorism was caused by poverty. Please, just please. How many Haitian terrorists are there? One of the poorest countries in the world. Or terrorists in Burkina Faso. In fact, when people think of, say, just the 9/11 terrorists, there are a lot of other terrorists in the world, but those are the ones they have in mind. These are typically middle-class, university-educated. They were not poor. They may have had a problem of rising expectations that were blocked in a society that did not offer them employment. But they weren't suffering, starving, poor people. Generally, those people don't revolt. They're too busy trying to eke out an existence. In fact, you want to look at Egyptian GDP growth rates. Egypt had a growing economy. Now, they were poor, but things were actually getting better. And according to the household survey data from the World Bank, the income distribution was not changing during this period, which suggests, although income was very uneven, if you will, as Ali mentioned, very wealthy, super elite, and a mass of the population was quite poor, and a fairly small middle class compared to democratic countries, that wasn't changing, which tells you that the income growth was fairly evenly distributed throughout the population. So for political scientists, we should revise the models we read in the typical daily newspapers. This may have been a case in which rising expectations sparked a revolution. People were actually saying, well, we are doing a little better. Why are we not doing a lot better? So it's not the case that poverty is always the cause of a revolution or the thing that people look to. There may be something more complex going on. I think that there was, in fact, the fundamental cause wasn't material per se. Poverty is a background condition, but it's like saying that the cause of the fire was oxygen, right? The fire was caused by oxygen. Yes, without oxygen, you won't get a fire. But normally, we want to look to the spark or the action that caused the fire. It was a simple quest for human dignity. This is something that I think is very important that you find in all of the Arab countries. The same message. We're not just striking because we want a car, or because we want a vacation, or because we want this or that, or the normal things that the global media is pointing to. It was a quest for dignity. We don't want to be treated this way anymore. And if you want to look to the cause of this, the spark, it happened on December 26th of last year in the town of Sidi Bouzid. A young man, 26 years of age, named Tariq El-Tayyib Mohammed Bouazizi, borrowed approximately $200 US money. And the reason he borrowed that at 10 o'clock that evening was so that he would be able to buy produce, melons and lettuce and other vegetables that he would then sell in his vegetable stand, one just like this. This is not him, but this is the sort of stand that he had. And he was going to fill it with produce, so in the morning, people who were coming out could buy food for their families. Normal commercial transaction, the stuff of human life. At about 10 o'clock that morning, 10:30 in the morning, he was approached by a local bureaucrat, a woman who worked for the city administration, and two policemen. They assaulted him. The policemen overturned his cart. They held him, and the woman, the two policemen, the woman said, "Where is your permit?" Which, by the way, is not needed for this behavior under Tunisian law. There's no requirement for this under the Tunisian law. This was a shakedown. This is exactly what Ali was talking about. Policemen come to you. What do you expect? What do they want? They want your money. And they want to humiliate you. So imagine this young man, and he's held, and he was slapped in public. So humiliated by this bureaucrat. And they destroyed his produce. And then they confiscated the one thing of lasting value, his real capital investment, which is the electronic scales. Without these, you can't determine how many kilos you've purchased of fruit or vegetables. So that's really important. That was his primary capital. So that was confiscated. He went shortly after that, after he was released, to the governor's office. He wanted to get back his scales. He was still being a submissive person, accustomed to being beaten and treated like this. And apparently, according to his family, this is a long history in this town. He'd been singled out for especially bad treatment for some reason. He said, "I want my scales." No one talked to him. No one recognized him. They treated him like he didn't exist. Go away. Wasn't even spoken to. So he went out into the street. This is according to eyewitnesses who were interviewed by Al Arabiya and BBC News and Reuters and so on. Went out into the street. He said, "If you don't see me," they didn't see him. He had no dignity as a human being. "If you don't see me, I will burn myself." Really horrifying thought, such desperation. No response. He went to a local petrol station, bought some gasoline, some petrol, came back, and then his last words, "How can a man make a living?" Well, he wanted. He wanted to be able to make a living, to support his family. And he lit himself on fire. It's unbelievable. It's such a shocking thing. People rescued him. He was taken to hospital. He did die subsequently. His sister was interviewed on Reuters, and her statement was so powerful. She said, "Think what it is like to drive a young man, 26 years old, to this extreme." Right? She said, "In our town, if you don't have money for bribes or relatives, you're nothing. You don't exist. You don't count. We can't live like this anymore." This was really the cause, was this plea, this desperate plea, just for dignity. He died in January of this year, and it was clear this ignited so much anger among the Tunisian people. They said, "We don't want to live this way anymore." Even the president came to his hospital room, beginning to realize people are angry, very, very upset about this. He wished him well, and he said, "I'll take care of it." It was too late. People said, "We've had it," because they realized something. That this man had given them this occasion to vent their anger. And if you go out into the streets confronting an authoritarian regime, and Tunisia was not the worst by any means. Authoritarian regime, corrupt, tough and brutal, but there are worse ones in the world. But if you went out and challenged them, they would beat you. Right? Bad things would happen to you. Your property would be confiscated. You would be imprisoned. In some extreme cases, you might disappear. If there are 10 of you, all 10 of you will be beaten. But there might have been a scene, so they might be a little cautious about this. If there are 100 of you, they will tear gas you. If there are 1,000 of you, they're not sure what to do. When there are 10,000 of you, when there are 50,000 of you, they realize there's nothing they can do at that point. So in fact, we go back to East German Revolution. The most revolutionary statement that helped to bring down the so-called German Democratic Republic was not down with communism. It was auf die Straße. People, this means onto the streets. So in Leipzig, for example, you had half of the population of the city was marching in the street. This is astonishing. They realized there's nothing we can do. We can't defeat that. There are too many of them, too few of us in the security apparatus. So this brought about just an astonishing change, this movement in Tunisia that other Arabs and people in other countries were watching. It authentically revolutionized the entire area. It was unprecedented. It was not planned by anybody. The radical Islamists, as they might be known, and one must be very careful of this Islam from political Islamism, just like Christianism and Christianity would be two different, one is a political movement, the other is a religion. They were shocked and startled. Everybody was surprised by this. Really, no one predicted that this was going to happen. But it has dramatically changed the entire Arab world. Here's from a cartoonist, this little fruit stand flying out and taking this message of liberty and dignity around the Arab world. So now the question is, what's going to come afterwards? And what can we do about it? And this particular cartoon presents, if you will, the issue. We have autocracy, and the little top is being toppled over, and people with Dem and Theo marching toward it. We don't know which one is going to get to the top first. It's really a serious struggle. There's no inevitability about what's going to happen. It's very much up to what people decide to do and what resources they bring to bear. Now here's option number one that's very much in the eyes of the world. This is what many people are concerned about, and not only in the outside world, but in Egypt as well. Great discussion. Is this what we want? So that's one option, and there are people working as we speak to bring this about. They're not just passively sitting and waiting for other people. Very actively working to do that. We have option number 2 that many people forget about, which is Arab socialism. Socialism is a very powerful intellectual influence in the Arab world for a lot of reasons. One of which is the Soviet Union left a deep imprint on the region. They spent a huge amount of money translating everything by Marx, Engels, and Lenin, and Stalin, and Mao various times into Arabic. Every pamphlet, every napkin scribble and doodle, every cartoon Karl Marx ever wrote is available in an Arabic bookstore or library. Now, there are not that many communists. This is the Communist Party. There are communist parties. They're well-organized, small, effective groups. Most people don't accept that. But it leaves an imprint in the mind. Your idea of how economies work, the need for the state to plan everything. That imprint has been left behind. The Soviet Union has an enduring legacy. If it had not been for the Bolshevik coup d'etat, the so-called October Revolution, that took over a great country, Russia, I don't think many people would be reading Marx today. He'd be remembered as an interesting 19th century political thinker. That's it. But they effectively took over a whole country and converted it into a giant virus machine for replicating themselves, like a virus invades a cell and forces the cell to replicate itself. So they produced their ideas in every language of the world. When I went to Kurdistan the first time, I was really shocked. Some of the Kurdish intellectuals could not speak Kurdish well. And when one of them would come to the table, everyone switched to Russian. Right? This is in Kurdistan. And all of the intellectuals spoke Russian because the Soviet Union had brought them all for training and so on at their universities. So that's something that we should keep in mind. That they are also active and working to promote their vision. Third option, also rather unattractive from our perspective, militaristic nationalism. This is a very easy option in a crisis situation. Strong leader, rally around the state. This is another thing that one should be concerned about, and the armies in various countries are very interested in promoting this particular option as well, because it places them at the top of the leadership, and it brings about national feeling, national patriotism, and so on towards national institutions. So this is another option, and it's possible you could get hybrids of these. Militaristic Islamist socialism, for example, would be particularly toxic combination. But we shouldn't despair. There is another option. And here we have a picture from Tahrir Square taken by my friend Nancy Ibrahim, a wonderful lady, and I hope she'll come to some of these in the future. I was in Tahrir Square. This man is this, you suspect is Salafist. He's not very happy with me standing there. But everyone else was very nice and exactly wonderful, warm people. This young man helped to get me right in front of the podium. And we had a number of people there. Let me make sure I can make this work. Gurcharan Das from India came. He's a great Indian libertarian. Former CEO of Procter & Gamble India. Author of India Unbound, wonderful book. Several other books just came out. One from Oxford University Press. For the difficulty of being good. Great meditation on life and business and liberty. And he gave a powerful presentation on the rule of law. You can read that as he's speaking. This is where we were in Tahrir Square. It was rather an exciting place. People were gathering to protest against the military dominating power. Most inspiring talk on the rule of law I've ever seen.
Simultaneous instructions.
Message of nonviolence is very well received. It's very important. Violent revolutions almost never come to a good conclusion. This was on television a lot also. It's a very important message that he brought. That was a very powerful moment, and Gurcharan was very important. We had the people from India, people from Slovakia, who could talk about transition, about democracy in India and Egypt. There's a long, long historical connection and great friendship among intellectuals and culturally, and having a number of Indians there to discuss the roots of Indian democracy and success, and also people from Eastern Europe who talked about post-dictatorship transformation. Show me this. The man who did the translation was Noor El-Harmouzi, my colleague. And I knew him as he's a scholar, he's a writer, he's a thinker, he's a diplomat, he's a friend. I did not know he's a powerful public speaker until he went up. Nancy Ibrahim was a BBC reporter for BBC Arabic, as sharp elbows. And she elbowed the Brotherhood guys out of the way. They were all guarding the stage, and she got right up there. She said, "We want a message of freedom here." She was a very, very tough woman. And
BBC journalists about.
maybe that's it. But here's Nua giving a short presentation. And again, very well received, and he was in a fair number of media interviews as well after this. something that Nuala was very good at, was to bring, as Ali did, authentic patriotism in the service of liberty, to be distinguished from nationalism or chauvinism. Not that we should rule over some others and suppress them. We want to be free people. And Egyptian patriotism is a very powerful thing, and also in the various countries, something to be brought in the service of liberty. But it's potentially twisted into ugly, malicious, and malignant nationalism. That's a very important thing for liberals to be able to make sure that that line is very clear. One can be proud to be a Libyan, Egyptian, Syrian, whatever. But it doesn't mean you look down on other people or you want to rule them or harm them. That kind of patriotism is perfectly compatible with libertarianism. One of the things in the Arab world that needs to be rectified is that the numbers of people who speak foreign languages are very small. They vary from country to country. You have Francophone elites in North Africa and Lebanon, Anglophone elites. The average person speaks Arabic and reads newspapers, and even if they know tourist English, they can't read a book. It's too difficult, too daunting. There's very little literature about liberty available in the Arabic language. It's an interesting puzzle why. The Arab Development Report of the United Nations in 2004 posed some very startling statistics on this. They said, some that were quite memorable, in the year 2004, more books were translated into Spanish in the country of Spain than into Arabic since the Al-Mamun era. It's really quite shocking. Or, another way to think of it, more foreign books are translated into Greek with 11 million speakers every year than into Arabic. This is a gigantic population of Arabic speakers. Interesting puzzle why, and I've heard various explanations, but the fact is you can't get John Locke, you can't get John Stuart Mill, you can't get Voltaire and Montesquieu easily at all in Arabic. Most of them are never translated. So our colleagues have undertaken this. These are some of the books that have come out recently in economics and philosophy and law. And we have a whole series of books coming out with the top Arab publishers and also putting them online. So we don't know exactly what the outcome is going to be. This is still the big question mark that faces us. But it's our job to do the best that we can to help our friends to secure their own freedom, the peace and prosperity, and very importantly, their dignity, which has been stolen from them for so many decades. Their dignity. So people who focus just on material benefits or material causes are missing the story. That's not why people went into the streets, to get another toaster or a car or a bigger house. Those are all good things. They went into the streets to secure their dignity. And that is something that libertarians have a great deal to say about. Thank you very much.
The extra income they used to take. They have their salary, and there is a job that they don't like, they just leave. They are free to leave, but they are not free to have bribes from people. And everyone now, caught red-handed having bribes, he will really have a very serious toughness. Second, the question, which is secret intelligence agencies, and so they are still there. They are still there, but they are collecting data on people, but they are not kidnapping people and taking people and throwing people in jail. I have some of my friends. We were in the university. This was in the 1990s, and the guy the police took him, and I never saw him after, unless he spent 14 years in jail. No one knows where he are. So, secret police is there, secret intelligence agent is there, but they are just collecting people, collecting information.
For whom are they collecting? For whom?
For the data, they have in their database. By the way, the secret police after the revolution, let me make this secret. The secret police after the revolution, rebels attacked all their centers, destroyed everything, destroyed their computers, destroyed, and the government actually take them away of the system. However, still, in some agencies, they are working secretly and so on and so on. And we don't have a problem in that. once you collecting, well, you can, in every country have a, for sure have a secret police or so on. But once you just collecting information about people, what is wrong with that? If you are coming to Egypt, what is wrong to know who you are and why you are coming? If I'm Egyptian, I'm doing something really wrong, it should be documented that I'm really doing something wrong. Okay, but the main thing is what is right and what is wrong. Before that, everything was wrong. Completely, you know? And right now, the right thing to increase, the wrong thing is actually decreasing, so no problem to have these secret guys collecting information. Before that, they collect information, collect you. Okay? They collect information, collect you. Now they collecting information, but they couldn't get you anyway. Okay? The third one, how when you can be safe to cross the traffic. Well, when I feel safe to cross the traffic, for sure you will be safe. Why? Because yeah, we have a terrible traffic in Egypt, and I can see you, I can show you, and lots of people, Egyptian people, died in car accidents and so on and so on. But well, I can tell you it takes a little bit of time because some of these connected to culture. You have the roads and just everyone is driving like crazy, and it is not in Egypt only, in many different countries, the same thing. Okay, so when you feel safe, when I feel safe, for sure you will safe. Okay, any other questions?
You have a short question and a short answer.